You're listening to the Champions League live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever the mission, home or away, Enterprise helps over 120,000 people every day. Whilst the light show continues on the pitch, the teams are just coming together in the tunnel at the Juventus Stadium. Manchester City currently 20th in the Champions League table after last night's results. 3 games left, but manager Pep Guardiola has refused to be drawn on whether they have to win all 3 remaining.
Right now, no, I'm thinking, I said many times last days, we are not in the position when you had the results the last 7-8 games to talk about win games and win games in plural. So we have to win game and not to see what happens in the next one. But of course, we are in a position like we don't win against Feyenoord, especially, of course, the first game against Inter always. We played to win the game for the chances that we had. Unfortunately, it was a draw. And with these 4 points that we don't have, we have two difficult games in Turin, in Paris, and the last game at home. And we have to take points to qualify. And after we see.
Pep Guardiola chatting to the media ahead of this crucial Champions League clash against Juventus as the teams start to make their way out onto the playing surface. And they will hear the Champions League anthem ring around this brand new stadium in just a few short moments' time. Dean Ashton, former England and West Ham striker, is alongside me. Dean, when it comes to Ruben Diaz, he's made some very interesting quotes about, we'll learn more about this Manchester City team in the period of strife that they're in now than we would ever have learnt about Manchester City when everything in the garden was rosy. Fair comment from Ruben Diaz?
Yes, because you see a different side to players day to day, after games. I'm sure there will have been plenty of words being said, not just Pep Guardiola's, but the players themselves. These players take immense pride in their profession. These are elite players that have the highest standards and have done over the last 6 or 7 years at Manchester City. And I think then you see as a player, when it is tough, who's there with you, who's there for you, who's got the right ideas to get us out of it. That's what you want to see from your teammates in those moments. When it's easy, everyone can just have a laugh and just get on with things.
How about the argument that Pep Guardiola, the one thing he's never done in his managerial career, whether it's Barcelona, Bayern Munich or here at Manchester City, to be able to rebuild in the way that Sir Alex Ferguson did, not once really but twice, at Manchester United. Do you think he's got the capability? Because you sense that City are a team in a state of flux right now, don't you, Dean?
Yes, you do, absolutely. I mean, he's talked about he would love a 26-year-old Kevin De Bruyne, but he's not. And there's a few players now. Kyle Walker's another one of those that's had a couple of difficult games and has been outrun a couple of times, which will have dented his confidence. So yeah, you're right, I think it is. But everyone's obviously looking at Guardiola because he's made management look so easy wherever he's been. He's completely opened many people's eyes to a different way of playing since becoming a manager. And this really does feel like the biggest test he's ever had. You can sense it in his body language. And I think it might just take a little bit longer than he thought to get through this period. But I have no doubts if he sticks it out that he's capable of producing and bringing in players for the future.
Nice embrace between Kyle Walker and Danilo. We'll know each other very well when Danilo was at City in the early days of Pep Guardiola's reign. Our referee this evening is the vastly experienced Clément Turpin of France, who's got French assistants. Just a reminder of the teams then for City. In front of Ederson in goal. It may well be a back four of Walker, Diaz, Gvardiol and Lewis. Gundogan, Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne in midfield. Doku, Grealish and Haaland in attack. And for Juve, Di Gregorio is the goalkeeper. Savona, Gatti, Kalulu and Danilo in their back four. Locatelli and Thuram Ulien holding. Conceição, Koopmeiners and Yildiz, the 3 attacking midfielders behind Vlahovic in attack. Manchester City are in their change strip of the all burgundy shirts and shorts and socks tonight. And Juve, of course, at home in the black and white stripes. They got the inspiration for those from Notts County back in the day. And I think Notts County were the first team to play at this new Juventus Stadium when it was reopened. Such was Juventus's appreciation of what Notts County did in terms of inspiring the strip that we all know so well. Underway then on Talksport 2. Manchester City are kicking towards the north stand end, I think, away to our left-hand side. And they want to throw immediately left-hand side. And it does appear that Rico Lewis is playing on the left-hand side of a four. We'll see how things develop in these first few minutes. So as soon as I say that, he comes narrow, Dean Ashton.
Well, that's what he does. He'll start as if he's a left-back in a defensive position, and then he'll drift into midfield to make that midfield two alongside Gundogan, and then he'll try and spring back out when he needs to. The issue is he's got caught a few times in that position, just in between, as to exactly where he needs to be, and teams are targeting it. They're waiting for it. They're waiting for him and Gundogan just to peel apart enough and gaps to open up, and then they try and penetrate Manchester City's defence.
Ball played up to Haaland on halfway, touches it out to the right-hand side for De Bruyne, and he'll get it again via a ricochet off Locatelli. De Bruyne midway point of the Juve half, tucked infield to Gundogan, making 73 Champions League appearances tonight. Although Bernardo Silva is one ahead of him and makes the record for Manchester City tonight for Champions League appearances. Fernandinho was the previous record holder at 73. So many congratulations to Bernardo Silva. Milestone for him tonight. Out on the right-hand side, the City captain, Kyle Walker. Bang on the halfway line. Tucks it infield to De Bruyne. Stroke it back out to the right-hand side, asking a lot of Grealish, but he did really well, actually, to keep the ball in play. The ball was really fizzed at Jack Grealish, who's playing out on the right-hand side at the start tonight. Bernardo Silva was slid into by Danilo, and it's out of play for a Manchester City throw. Couple of minutes gone, 0-0 on Talksport 2. We'll keep you updated with goals elsewhere tonight on the 11th of December. There's Champions League 8 o'clock kickoffs elsewhere in Italy, like Milan, and Arsenal Monaco live on Talksport. And there's Championship games too that are all about 15 minutes old. No goals there. Cross from the right, looking for Haaland, but Michele Di Gregorio comfortably catches for Juve. He's one of the 4 changes they've made tonight from their 2-2 draw against Bologna. 0-0.
Just found himself a little bit of space, De Bruyne, on that right-hand side. He favours that side in the position that he'll play. Almost as two number 10s with Grealish and De Bruyne, with actually Bernardo on the right-hand side, Doku on the left. So it is more of a 3-2-4-1, I would say, Manchester City, when they have the ball.
Yeah, it's fluid. You'd expect nothing less from a Pep Guardiola team. They keep you guessing.
The only thing it was disappointing was De Bruyne's cross. When he gets in that position, you expect genuine quality. It was far too loopy to allow the keeper to come and get it. But Juventus definitely just sitting off. They're not looking to press the way they did against Aston Villa.
Bernardo Silva, right-hand side for City at 0-0. 3.5 gone. Faced up by Danilo. Just tucks it back in field for Gundogan. Plays a short 1-2 with Lewis. Lewis gives it back to the German. Back for City at a second spell. And he has it again, Ilkay Gundogan. Finds Lewis pretty much in the centre of the Juve half. Goes back to Diaz in the centre circle. Then Grealish is dispossessed by Thuram Oulien, but then City are quick to win the ball back. And it's sent out to Bernardo Silva on the right wing. Level with the right-hand side of the penalty area. And the ball's just nicked out of play by Kenan Yildiz for a City throw. 4 gone, 0-0.
Just a little slow from Jack Grealish there as he took the ball in with his back to goal. Didn't realise that Thuram Oulien was right behind him.
Already Benfica 1-0 up on Bologna in the Champions League. Bologna 3rd from bottom, or 4th from bottom, should I say, in the table. Only got 1 point so far, and Vangelis Pavlidis has given the Portuguese side the lead. And Chelsea's women are 1-0 up on Twente in the Champions League. Chelsea already maximum points so far, and Caterina Macario has given Chelsea an early lead for Sonia Bonpastor's side. Gvardiol for Manchester City, just outside his own penalty area. Rolls it along the deck up to halfway. Doku controls it well. He had a defender at his back, Gatti, who was clutching hold of Doku's shirt. So free kick to Pep Guardiola's men. Grealish has picked it up left-hand side, but then he's dispossessed again. This time it was Conceição working hard to dispossess Manchester City's number 10. Kalulu finds Danilo, has to go back to his keeper. It's a bit of a high press from City, and Juve trying to play around it and get out, and they've got the ball to the right-hand side, and it's tucked forward down this right-hand side by Savola, and then a lovely crossfield ball from Conceição to find his captain Danilo, and he will try and set Blajovic away. Flag has stayed down, he's in the inside left position. Blajovic into the area, tries to drive it across, and it's deflected behind for a corner, and only now has the flag gone up against the Serbian striker, and Manchester City have a free kick and don't have a corner to defend. 0-0.
Well, he just tried to use the oldest trick in the book, which is to make your run behind the defender in an offside position, cut in towards the defender, bump into him, and try and then make yourself onside with the other defender, and then dart in behind. He just barged into the back of Diaz, but didn't quite arc his run enough, Blajovic. But as always, teams will look for that. They'll look for that when you turn over possession. Can it be one or two passes and you're in behind this Manchester City defence?
He made his return from injury against Bologna, did Dusan Vlahovic. He's pretty much the only fit striker that they've got. Arkadiusz Milik, the Polish international, probably not going to be fit again for Juve till the new year. Joshua Zirkzee, of course, long since gone to join Manchester United. So their options up front are minimal. Turn Koopmeiners, who's playing in the number 10 position tonight, he was playing up front in recent times for Juventus. Here's De Bruyne, lifting it up to Haaland at the edge of the area, back to goal, being watched by Gatti. The ball ricochets off a couple of legs and comes out to Yildiz on the far left-hand side. He's running back towards his own dead ball line, but then neat football by Kalulu, and then Kefren Thuram brings it clear, and then a good foot in from Kyle Walker saw the ball deflect back into Grealish's path. He finds De Bruyne, and he just hits the ball against Gatti, the defender, and Clement Turpin just tells De Bruyne to get up. There's no free kick. 0-0.
Yeah, it's tight in that midfield area, isn't it? Because of Manchester City having 4 at times in there, and then Juve becoming nice and narrow and stopping that ball going in easily to De Bruyne and to Grealish. But actually, Manchester City have worked well when they've lost possession, worked incredibly hard just to disrupt Juve's play.
Here is Federico Gatti, and then Locatelli, lead ball out to the left-hand side, kept in play by Danilo, the captain. Thuram works it back to Kalulu. Now Locatelli, still inside their own half here, Juve. Not much of a press from Manchester City. Now Haaland goes to close down the space in front of Locatelli. Young boys leading Stuttgart. They've not taken a single point so far in the Champions League, the Swiss side, but Lucas Lacombe has given them the lead in Stuttgart. Now Rico Lewis under pressure from Conceição, and they collide just outside the area, but no free kick. It is, though, a Juventus corner, as Lewis, running back towards his own dead ball line, was really pressurised by this live wire midfielder on loan from Porto. 0-0.
Yeah, he was a little bit lucky, Rico Lewis, because he just didn't sense that Conceição was right behind him. All of a sudden, he then tried to put a sprint in, was knocked off balance. Conceição felt he was fouled, but he actually just twisted his own ankle with the way that his foot landed, which is why the referee Turpin just allowed play to go on. But Conceição's hurt that ankle when he rolled it slightly.
He's not getting up, so the corner for Juve is going to have to wait for a few minutes. Conceição looks in a little bit of distress as he lies on his back. I did mention how good he looked to me when he played against Aston Villa. It was a 0-0 draw that night at Villa Park, but he was the man most likely out there on both sides to create something in terms of a match-winning opportunity, and he's got the old magic spray being applied to that ankle. He's going to have to go off the pitch and not take part in this corner routine that Juventus are about to strike in. Turn Koopmeiners is going to deliver it. It's from the Juventus right, but it'd be a left-footed in-swinger from Koopmeiners. Let's see how Manchester City defend this corner. Blajovic waiting at the edge of the 6-yard box. Koopmeiners will now deliver it, left-footed, deep to the far post. Nobody there in the Juventus shirt. Rico Lewis could have had a shout from his defenders to leave it, but instead he's headed it back out play on the far side for a Juve throw, 0-0.
I mean, he should have heard the shouts from his teammates, 3 or 4 of them, letting him know that he could just let that go. Rico Lewis just heading it out for a throw-in.
Conceição's back on. 0-0 the score on Talksport 2. 10 minutes played, and it was a vital interception for Locatelli as the ball's rolled back to on halfway. What it must be like when you've got Erling Haaland running full pelt at you when there's a ball that's about 60-40 in your favour. That's no fun for anybody. But he got it clear all the same.
He did. Best tactic there for him was to certainly go to ground and stretch ahead rather than going into a shoulder-to-shoulder battle with Erling Haaland.
A couple of quick goals for Feyenoord in the Champions League. That 3-3 they got with Manchester City last time out, having been 3-0 down there. 2-0 up on Sparta Prague in Rotterdam. Gernot Trauner and Igor Paxiao with the 2 goals for the Dutch side. 0-0 in the Juventus Stadium, live on Talksport 2. Manchester City looking to get themselves back in the groove, which they thought they were, frankly, with a few minutes gone in the second half against Feyenoord. Bit of a wayward clearance from Ederson, and eventually drifts out of play via a Juve knee for a Manchester City throw.
But it's because everyone's now scrutinising every defensive moment or lack of confidence from the Manchester City defence. I mean, that ball goes back to Ederson. You're so used to him just getting his head up and just pinging a ball in towards Haaland's chest or out wide, and he just completely shanks that with no pressure really on him. And that, again, that's now scrutinised because they're lacking confidence.
Bernardo Silva out on the right-hand side for City, midway point of the Juve half. 0-0 the score with 12 minutes gone. Walker's there in support, so too De Bruyne on that right-hand side. It's rolled back infield, first for Gundogan, and now Lewis scheming towards the edge of the area, finds Grealish. First touch is heavy from Jack Grealish, and it allowed Savola to get it clear, but only as far as Guardiola. He plays a 1-2 with Jack Grealish and works it out to Doku on the left-hand side, but there's not much room for him to operate in. Immediately there were 2 Juve players on him in Conceição and Savola, and then Grealish sees Gatti get between him and the ball and clear downfield for Juve. Good header back into play by Rico Lewis, and then Doku goes down and wins a free kick for Manchester City out on the left-hand side as West Brom take the lead against Coventry in the 8 o'clock kickoff. That's an early goal for Alex Mowat. 11 unbeaten West Brom, but 10 draws against Coventry City, who got their first win for new manager Frank Lampard at Millwall at the weekend. West Brom won, Coventry 0. 0-0 between Juve and Man City. Kevin De Bruyne's got a good position. Now this is where he excels, Dean Ashton, these free kicks from wide areas to bamboozle that space between defenders and keeper.
Yeah, he so often finds the right delivery, but he's actually gone short.
Commentator's curse. Played it short to Doku, gives it back to De Bruyne, puts the ball into the box. It's headed out by Thuram to the edge of the area, and then Bernardo Silva picks it up, right-hand corner of the box. Has to pass it back 10 yards or so to Gundogan. Now into the centre of the half for Lewis. De Bruyne takes over once again, but he's been pushed back towards halfway by Blajovic, who's leading the press out from the back for Juventus. And City do indeed have to go back into their own half just for a moment on Ruben Diaz. Short to Gundogan on halfway. Just flicks it to his right for Kyle Walker. Bernardo Silva, he's got no space to operate in. Yildiz was closing down the space out there. Plays on the left of the 3, Kenan Yildiz, but he could very creative. He can play as he wears the number 10, and that's where I think he wants to play in this 4-2-3-1 system.
Yeah, I think he will eventually, but he's having to do the defensive work. I mean, this is a Juventus team that is averaging 60% possession, top in Serie A. They're not used to not having the ball, yet the manager and the players are bought into, we are going to sit off, we're going to allow Manchester City to have more of the ball, and we're going to try and counter-attack.
Almost given away by Ederson. He was bailed out by Gundogan. There were 3 Juve players herring in at the ball as Ederson passed out to Gundogan at the edge of the area, and Gundogan did enough.
Your lack of trust in Ilkay is something I might need to let him know.
Yeah. Well, he did very well there, Gundogan. You know, there's been some criticism of his pace since coming back for a second spell at City after he spent that time at Barcelona. But that wasn't about pace, that was just about a good footballing brain and helping out his goalkeeper. Doku's won another free kick meantime. 0-0 on Talksport 2. Doku was just caught by Kurt Miners as he made his way infield from the left-hand side. So, midway point of the half, and again, De Bruyne will stand over it and try and scheme something here maybe this time. Kurt Miners just getting a warning from the referee and not a booking, it would appear, for that challenge on Jeremy Doku. Quarter of an hour played. City free kick, and Juve, their defensive line is about 9 yards from goal. Haaland an obvious target. De Bruyne just floats it in right-footed. Oh, it didn't get past the first defender, Thuram. Conceição, the smallest man on the pitch, heads it further clear, and it's back on halfway, 0-0.
It's an awkward position to have that free kick. It's very central that Kevin De Bruyne had. You can see what he's trying to do. He's still trying to whip it towards the middle of the goal, hoping there's a flick on. I think you are better actually playing that short and wide if you can.
Well, Dean Ashton's dead right. 70% possession for Manchester City in this opening 16 minutes, which is something that Juve are not used to, domestically speaking. And they're still struggling to get out of their own half quite a lot here, Juve. It is very much being played in the midfield and into Juve's half in these opening minutes. 16 and a half gone on Talksport 2. This game brought to you in partnership with TNT Sports, the home of European football. De Bruyne flicks it in field to Bernardo Silva. Lovely skill through the legs of a defender into the area right-hand side. Tries to send the cross over, and it's blocked behind by Kalulu for Manchester City's first corner of the night. 0-0.
There's still magic in that wand of his, isn't there? Bernardo Silva, that was just gorgeous bit of play. The awareness to know that the defender is right there as you take it under pressure, but then with his left foot just almost bobbling it on purpose through the defender's legs to get it the other side. Brilliant.
So a right-wing corner for City to be taken by De Bruyne, right-footed out-swinger. Doku inside the 6-yard box. Other players making a run in, goes over the head of Haaland and over the head of Guardiola. Grealish picks it up left-hand side though. Juve haven't got it clear, but they should now because Grealish's back heel intended for Bernardo Silva only found Locatelli, who rolls it back to his keeper. First time clearance downfield, headed wide by Vlahovic, looking for Conceição, but that's well dealt with by Kyle Walker, hooking it back to his goalkeeper Ederson. Stays goalless on Talksport 2.
Yeah, Grealish there, just not on the same wavelength as Bernardo Silva, and I absolutely love Jack Grealish as a player, but he's got to get back to really affecting games, and I mean scoring goals and assisting. You know, it's...
Well, you figured when he came back in for England and scored against the Republic of Ireland earlier this season, you thought, OK, that could be a key to him, you know, rediscovering his mojo.
Yeah.
Not quite as it's turned out.
But it's interesting that Guardiola's playing him a little more centrally rather than out wide. Doku's the wide player, Bernardo Silva. He's playing centrally with De Bruyne.
Well, again, that's where he wants to play.
Yeah, and I think that is where I'd like to see him. I think he can be that influential in that position.
City trying to close down the space as Haaland trying to get in front of the goalkeeper, but it's a good ball out to find Savona, and he's making strides into the City half. Flicks it out to the right wing, Conceição, level with the edge of the area. He's got Doku and Lewis for company, Conceição. So he clips it back into midfield for Locatelli. First time ball into the box, headed out by Gvardiol, but Yildiz will get there first for Juventus. Got the option of an overlap. Goes for goal himself, and he's only just wide, Kenan Yildiz, with a right-footed effort. Did that take a touch on its way through? It may just be a goal kick in the end. But that was more than just a sighter for Kenan Yildiz. That's as close as we've come. Stays 0-0.
Well, he didn't hesitate when that ball came to him. As soon as he saw the overlapping run from Danilo and Bernardo Silva just take his attention away, he's then gone to strike the ball towards the far post, hitting up on the ball to get the dip down and skipping off the surface, but just half a foot wide.
That was close, but it stays 0-0 on Talksport 2. We're coming up to the 20-minute mark in the Juventus Stadium. Gatti for the home side. plays it up to halfway, but it's gone beyond Conceição. Lewis has got plenty of time to collect the loose ball before it rolls out of play and turn and face the halfway line. Gives it to Gundogan and a short pass backwards for Ruben Diaz. Manchester City will go to Paris Saint-Germain on match day 7, and they will not want to be in a similar area of the table. The winner here tonight gets back in amongst the top 8. Remember, it's the top 8 sides in this mega league of 36 teams who go automatically into the round of 16. If you finish between 9th and 24th, that means you go into the lottery of that extra playoff round. Here is Josko Gvardiol. One of the plus points, I think it's fair to say, for Manchester City this season, his continuing good form that he brought over from last season into this, Dean Ashton.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the moment, it is about the positives as Bernardo Silva goes into a centre-back position and starts dribbling out.
And made it look like it was the most natural thing in the world. Going to get it back from Kyle Walker on the far right-hand side. Approaching the midway point of the first half here on Talksport 2. Manchester City have been comfortable so far. Looking for Haaland on halfway from De Bruyne's slid pass, but it was intercepted by Danilo. And here's Yildiz, who just had that effort on goal a moment or so ago, driving the ball from left to right, looking for Conceição. Lovely first touch from the Portuguese, running at Lewis. Right-hand corner of the area, pulls it back to the edge of the area. Great pullback, but could only find Bernardo Silva. Thuram wasn't quick onto it. City clear their lines, 0-0.
Yeah, good defensive work from Bernardo Silva. Starting on that right-hand side, Gundogan was upended, so he went back into a good position as he must be offside, Koopmeiners, surely.
Well, he played it out to the left-hand side, and the hands went up from the City defenders. It doesn't appear that any offside flag was put up, but City are coming forward anyway as Grealish carries the ball forward, finds De Bruyne inside left channel, out to the left wing, and Doku level with the edge of the area, up against Savona. Doku skips inside him, staying on his right foot, shoves Conceição away like he's a fly, just irritating him as he's working down that left-hand side, and then works it back in field. Juve got everybody behind the ball in their defensive third. Gundogan in front of that defensive shield. Midway point of the half, plays a short 1-2 with Grealish. It's very narrow. Juve defending the width of their 18-yard box, aren't they, Dean? Only now do they go out and engage, say, Bernardo Silva on that right-hand side as he receives the ball on the wing. Little over from Gundogan. Gets it back from De Bruyne, clips it to the far post beyond Haaland. Picked up by Doku, left-hand side of the area. Drives for the byline, pulls it across, and Gatti gets a foot on it and clears it away from danger. And Conceição does well to prevent the throw-in, 0-0.
Well, it's brilliantly worked. Ball in towards Gundogan. He's just let it go through his legs to De Bruyne. Gets it the other side, gets his head up, sees the run from Haaland to the back post. As soon as he plays that cross, Haaland ran to the near post.
Koopmeiners on halfway. Wants to release Vlahovic through the middle, but couldn't do so because he knew Vlahovic was offside. He was trying to hold his run. City have won it back. Lewis finds De Bruyne. Midway point of the first half on Talksport 2. It's 0-0. Here's Doku left-hand side. Plays it. Lovely reverse ball into the area. De Bruyne across the facing goal, but it won't find Haaland. In goes Bernardo Silva trying to win it. And Juventus legs get it away. 0-0.
Yeah, it's a brilliant challenge from Locatelli. Vital, because Bernardo Silva was there ready to strike with his left foot, but once again Kevin De Bruyne with a really clever run in behind. Doku found him. It was a little stretch for De Bruyne. He was looking for Haaland for a tap in. Once again, defenders doubled up on Haaland to make sure he couldn't get it.
You're listening to Juventus 0, Manchester City 0 in the Champions League, live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever the mission, home or away, Enterprise helps over 120,000 people every day. Ian Danta and Dean Ashton, the former England and West Ham striker, your commentary team here on Talksport 2. A whole host of live football to come tomorrow. Got 3 games for you tomorrow from Europe. Astanta against Chelsea at 3:30. Mike Schewel and Darren Ambrose, your commentary team, followed by Victoria Plzeň against Manchester United here on Talksport 2. That's 5:45. Alex Crook and Scott Minto. And then Rangers against Tottenham. Ange Postecoglou going back into Ibrox. And that one, Jim Proudfoot, Stuart Pearce, your commentary team for that one. Ange must, well...
Some atmosphere that'll be, won't it?
Oh boy, especially when he takes his place in the dugout. So you covered for live football across the Talksport network tomorrow with us here, and indeed into the weekend. We've got EFL on Friday night, we've got game day exclusives on Saturday. Myself and Dean will be at Emirates Stadium. Arsenal against Everton is your 3 o'clock exclusive for Talksport 2. Faye Carruthers will be with us as well at Emirates Stadium. 0-0 here, 25 gone. Bernardo Silva for Manchester City. Finds Kyle Walker, his captain. Lewis in the centre of the half. Just a bit of space to operate for a moment. Finds Grealish. Turns away from Locatelli. It's worked out to Doku on the left-hand side. Doku looking to outrun Savona to get to the byline. But by the time he got to the ball had gone over the dead ball line. It's a goal kick. But worth a try from Jeremy Doku just to test out the speed and agility of the Juve fullback. 0-0.
I mean, how sharp is he? Yeah. Seriously, I don't think I've ever seen a player from a standing start have the sharpness of Doku, because that's what he does. He just slows it down to standing there, and then all of a sudden it's just this almost electricity that runs through him, and he's away.
Now, Vlahovic has been brought down on the edge of the centre circle. Clement Turpin gives the free kick. Well, that's been a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Definitely Vlahovic had a chunk of Ruben Diaz's shirt, but a combination of Diaz and Lewis took him down.
Yeah, Doku making most defenders look like a diesel when he's got the new electric from a standing start. I've seen a few that have been eaten up. Yeah, the lights.
Yeah, certainly last season there were some performances, particularly in the Premier League. Some of the Saturday afternoon games we did at the Etihad, he was just a wrecking ball. Yeah, absolute wrecking ball.
Again, you're just a bit like Grealish. You're just asking for more end product, aren't you? For the talents that they've got, you want more end product.
Millwall 0, Sheffield United 1 in the Championship. Rhian Brewster for the Blades, bidding to go back to the top of the pile. Millwall in this sort of holding pattern, waiting for a replacement for Neil Harris after he announced he was stepping down in the next couple of games. And Stuttgart have equalised against Young Boys in the Champions League. Angelo Stiller making it 1-1 at the Juventus Stadium here on Talksport 2. It's still 0-0 between Juventus and Manchester City. Best chance we've had, Dean Ashton, was Kenan Yildiz trying a speculative effort from the left-hand side, 25 yards out, that wasn't far wide of Ederson's left-hand post.
No, I mean, it's been completely dominant in terms of possession from Manchester City. They've been excellent with the ball. You know, the tempo of the play and the passing and the movement's been excellent. And they've had their moments. They've got into good positions. They're just waiting still for that final pass to find a teammate. And that's down to Juventus's defending. I mean, they look like an incredibly well-coached defensive team.
Lovely turn from Kenan Yildiz, and turns and runs into the City half. Tries to feed Vlahovic in the area, has to drive out to the left-hand side. Well, he just decided to pull it back with a first touch. It was such a weak cross in the end because he was off balance, and there was nobody there in a black and white shirt waiting for it anyway. 0-0.
Outstanding from Yildiz to start with. Just taking it on the back foot, a little drop of the shoulder just to let it run across his body. And then he needed to play. He needed to play instantly to Vlahovic because the space had opened up. Then Kyle Walker came across and got a tiny touch on the pass that kind of ran it away from Vlahovic, and he overstretched with his touch, and the chance was pretty much gone. The first part from Yildiz is excellent, but then it needs to be played at that perfect time for you as a forward.
Now, I'm not going to fall into the trap with 29 minutes gone of saying Haaland looks quiet tonight, because I've lost count the number of times I've thought that in my head, and then 2 minutes later suddenly he comes to life. But he has been starved of chances thus far. We're approaching the half hour at the Juventus Stadium in this first half in the Champions League. Juventus 0, Manchester City 0. Remember, these two teams started in 22nd and 20th place respectively, and a win for either will send them shooting up the table towards the top 8.
Well, you are right about Haaland. Just the 5 touches he's had in this half an hour gone.
I knew you'd know. Here's Bernardo Silva, maybe trying to give Haaland a crucial 6th touch. De Bruyne at the edge of the area, gives it back to Silva down the right-hand side of the box. Pulls it back, Haaland's the target for the header, but it's cleared away by the head of Locatelli instead. Gundogan picks up the loose ball, rolls it back to Guardiola, then Lewis looks for Grealish. Grealish cheeses it out to Doku, left-hand side, level with the edge of the area. Passes the ball along the deck infield to Rico Lewis. Lewis, square ball just to his right for Gundogan. Patient again from Manchester City. Bernardo Silva has a run from Walker. He's found him inside the area. Walker pulls it back intelligently, looking for Haaland. But again, there's plenty of black and white shirts there, and they get the ball out of harm's way, Juventus.
Well, he got his head at Walker. It was a really good underlapping run from him. He gets his head up. He sees the Manchester City coloured shirt in the penalty area. It's Haaland who it is.
Yep.
But he's the only one, and he's got 3 defenders around him. That's where a Grealish, a Doku, a Gundogan, a De Bruyne, but you have to make the effort to run in. You might not even get it. You just might release Haaland's defender away from him.
Oh, lovely first touch, left-hand side from Yildiz for Juve. Into the box, left-hand side, tries to go for goal. He was off balance, gets to his feet, and the ball's cleared away desperately by Manchester City. And in the end, they drive it against the Juve leg and win a goal kick. But Kenan Yildiz was on his marks, on the starting blocks, trying to get in behind Kyle Walker, and he did so on that left-hand side. But as he got into the box, the City players converged on him, and Ruben Diaz made the all-important block from the Yildiz shot, 0-0.
Well, that was Walker's fault from a quick free kick from Juventus. He's not concentrating, he's not noticed Yildiz's run behind him, and then it's a magnificent first touch from Yildiz just to cushion it so he can then burst away with a little bit of pace to get the other side of Walker.
It's the old adage, like he's brought it down with carpet slippers on, isn't
Absolutely. But then, you know, that's what Ruben Diaz is.
Oh,
that's where you get the difference when he plays, is the reading of the danger and where that is, and the blocks and the intensity when you defend.
Half times in the Championship, no goals to speak of. QPR 0, Oxford 0, Hull 0, Watford 0, Cardiff 0, Preston 0. Chelsea are 2-1 up on FC20 in the Women's Champions League. They were 2-0 up, or rather, they were back at 1-1, but Aurélien Jean-François has made it 2-1 to Chelsea. And Celtic's women are losing to the Real Madrid women's team in their Women's Champions League. Celtic have got no points from their 4 games. Real second behind Chelsea, and Sinja Brun has put Real Madrid's women in front. Half-time score at Millwall is Millwall 0, Sheffield United 1. That Rhian Brewster strike, and still 1-0 to West Brom in the 8 o'clock kickoff against Coventry City. We played 32 minutes on Talksport 2 at the Juventus Stadium. Juve 0, Manchester City 0. Grealish for the visitors. Tucks the ball in field, looking for Lewis, but again it's a loose pass, and then the referee gets in the way of Kurt Miners and apologises, Clement Turpin. He's hurt his back actually, or a side strain maybe, in trying to get out the way of Kurt Miners. Might need a bit of physio here, the referee. Oh, he just got barged into, but he was obstructing. He should give himself a yellow card for that.
He's in decent shape, is Clement Turpin, but maybe not up against the physical specimens of the Champions League.
Well, the days of, shall we say, referees who aren't quite in the same shape as those that they're officiating on are long gone, aren't they, Dean? You might even have encountered 1 or 2 of those in your time as a Premier League player. Let's say no more than that. 11 minutes to half-time. Juve 0, Manchester City 0. Ball's out on the right-hand side, brought up to halfway by Savona. Conceição runs into Doku. Then surely there's a foul on Grealish there, and there is, as he was taken down by Locatelli. So a free kick to Manchester City just inside the Juve half of the field. Manchester City might have lost in Sporting, but that was their only defeat in 29 UEFA club matches. They have one hell of a record in Europe to defend. But still the narrative is that they're not quite what they should be. A win here tonight would do an awful lot just to keep a few people quiet who have been making noises off about whether this is
Well, I mean,
change.
It doesn't look particularly any different to so many games I've seen with Manchester City.
Right.
Loads of possession, really patient, trying to just probe and wait for a lapse in concentration. But what is unusual is there hasn't been a shot. Not one shot from Manchester City in the game.
Arsenal have had a shot and they've scored from it. Bukayo Saka has given Arsenal the lead over on Talksport against Monaco. They've also played 35 minutes at Emirates Stadium, so Arsenal in front. City goalless here so far with Juve, 10 to the break. Out on the right-hand side for Pep's men is Bernardo Silva. Strokes the ball in field to Rico Lewis, gets his head up and then floats the ball out to Doku, left-hand side. Neatly brought down by the Belgian, faced up by Savona, left-hand corner of the box. Rolls it back in field to Lewis and across to Gundogan. Gundogan finds De Bruyne, 25 yards out. Back out to the right wing it goes, and Bernardo Silva lays it off to De Bruyne, right-hand corner, first-time cross, looking for Haaland, comes back to him via a deflection. But by the time it got to him, he just couldn't adjust his body to strike it. Goal was the way he would have wanted. I think that was a shot on goal, though, even though it was blocked. 0-0.
It absolutely was. It was a wicked ball in from Kevin De Bruyne. It bounced off Koopmeiners. But I tell you who's there, and it's not the centre-back. It's Locatelli again.
Yeah, that's not
a couple of times. Yeah, he's dropped in right alongside the two centre-backs just to give Haaland no space. He did get the snapshot away, but Locatelli was there to block.
That's Dean Ashton, you can hear there alongside me, Ian Danta. Chelsea's women are 3-1 up against Twente in the Women's Champions League. Mayra Ramirez with the third for Chelsea. You're listening to Juve Man City in the Champions League live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise has vans of all shapes and sizes here. If you've got a plan, they've got a van. Haaland receives the ball down the left-hand side of the box. Put the ball across the face of goal, but such a calm touch off the chest of Kefren Turam Ulien to give it back to his keeper. Juve try and bring the ball up to halfway, but they got in a bit of a muddle there. Did the home side, and City have it back.
Yeah, it was a decent pass from Grealish down the side of the centre-back Gatti for Haaland. The angle was tight, and he looked as if he had just had a little look over his shoulder to see if there was anyone there. There wasn't, so I was surprised he cut that back, rather than just lashing it as hard as he could towards the near post, and you're hoping you can catch the goalkeeper out. Surprised he didn't take that on.
Back in the centre circle it is, with Manchester City and Ruben Diaz. Left to Gvardiol, and further upfield it goes to Doku, but he's being forced back towards the halfway line. And so City have to start again inside their own half with Diaz. Short pass into Lewis, who gives it back to Diaz. Now Vlahovic starts to press a bit further forward. Walker turns inside Yildiz. That's a good ball up to Haaland, who's come short, but his touch eludes him as he tried to guide it out to De Bruyne on the right-hand side, and Juve have it back. Locatelli, early pass, finds Koopmeiners, trying to ride a couple of challenges, helped out by Vlahovic, who does really well whilst he was on the deck, scooped it away from a couple of City shirts, and then the offside flag goes up against Yildiz on the left-hand side, and City have a free kick. 0-0 on Talksport 2.
He's not polished, is he, Erling Haaland, in those situations, in terms of holding the ball up, and it's pretty 50-50, isn't it? I think that's why still there are doubters for him as the best player in the world.
Even with 44 goals in, 46 Champions League appearances?
His goal record is just ludicrous, to be honest.
His goal record everywhere is ludicrous.
Yeah, but it is still little moments that people doubt him because of that hold-up play at times.
Lewis this time can't make his way through the midfield, but it's won back by City and sent out to Grealish midway point of the half. 4-1 to Chelsea's women now in the Champions League. Erin Cuthbert with the latest. De Bruyne looks for Haaland inside the area. Oh, what a save by Di Gregorio as Haaland tried to lift it over the keeper. Di Gregorio stuck up a left paw and got it away. That is the best chance of the half. 0-0.
Oh, wrap it up and put a bow on it from De Bruyne. What a gift of a pass. It was magnificent for Haaland.
Here come Juve at the other end. Conceição down the right-hand side of the box, steps in field, rolls it in field. First time effort from Locatelli, or Danilo actually it was in the end who had the shot. But it bounced once and was a comfortable save for Ederson. Chances at both ends, 0-0.
Yeah, easy for Ederson. Right at him. Danilo looking to whip it with a bit of bend. Didn't get any of the bend and none of the whip. But what a chance for Haaland. I mean, De Bruyne's vision, the pass is so good. It's so disguised. It's got the perfect weight on it. It goes in between two defenders and in behind the Juve's defence. It's not a bad finish. I've got to say, it's not a bad decision from Haaland to try and just dink it. But a big paw comes out from Di Gregorio. Brilliant save.
Stays 0-0. Grealish for Manchester City. Out to the left wing and Doku. Level with the edge of the area. Coming in field. Finds Grealish again. Dispossessed by Koopmeiners. But De Bruyne, he's dispossessed by Koopmeiners. Good defending from the Juventus number 8, and now the tricky Conceição. Oh, that's a poor pass from him. He'd done so well. He actually gets a pat on his back from his manager right next to him at the edge of the technical area. Skipped down the near touchline, trying to flick it back to his fullback Savona. Put it straight out of play. But yes, the pass from De Bruyne, we're just seeing again, split that Juve defence in two.
Oh, it was just gorgeous, honestly. In between Gatti's legs and then in behind Kalula.
And fair play to Haaland, who timed his run to absolute perfection.
And he thinks he scored because it's a decent dink. But then, like I said, that left arm just comes out and he's just read it perfectly.
Another free kick for Manchester City. Not a good challenge from Conceição, who apologises to Doku as he gets to his feet. It was a bit of a flick of the left leg from Chico Conceição. And it will be a free kick to Manchester City on the left-hand side of their midfield, pretty much level with the penalty area. Chance for them late on in this first half. We've got, 41 minutes played. And the referee wants a word with Doku and Conceição because it didn't stay friendly for long between those two. And the French referee is reminding Conceição of his responsibilities out there as a player. Pep Guardiola, hands in pockets, pacing around his technical area as he's so often wont to do. But his side have a free kick here, Dean, in a dangerous position.
Yeah, he knows though if Haaland just pops that into the back of the net, then you're looking at a very good half of football from Manchester City.
So eventually De Bruyne will have this free kick. It's only a yard or two in from the near touchline, level with the Juve 18-yard line. Swing it in right-footed. Haaland standing nearest to the goalkeeper, comes into the near post, and Thuram, the first defender, heads it out of play for a corner kick. But there was no City player making a run to that near post area where De Bruyne delivered the ball. 0-0.
No, I don't think they were expecting it to be as whipped to the near post as it was. I wonder whether De Bruyne was actually trying to catch the defence and goalkeeper out with that.
A lot of pushing and shoving in the 6-yard box. Diaz and Kalulu right in front of the goalkeeper and the referee. You can hear a couple of the blasts on the whistle from Clement Turpin. He's saying to those two, I've got my eye on you. And this is a vastly experienced referee. Let's not forget Clement Turpin. De Bruyne with the corner, 2 minutes to half time, 0-0. Right-footed in swinger, headed to the far post. It's out towards the edge of the box. Lewis tries to drive it goalwards from the edge of the area, but didn't catch it right at all. And City have to go back to their own goalkeeper, Ederson, as Juve tried to break. AC Milan lead Red Star by a goal to nil. Rafael Leao puts them in front late on in the first half at the San Siro. But at the Juventus Stadium, we're still waiting for the deadlock to be broken, Dean Ashton.
We are. And Haaland's had the best chance of the game. But like I said, this is such a similar performance to some of the very good performances they've had, certainly in the Champions League, where they've completely dominated, controlled the game, they've probed, the team has sat deep and defended well, and waiting just to wear them out, waiting for a lack of concentration or a bit of quality. But if the half-time whistle goes and it's still 0-0, it's City are not winning again.
Yeah, the narrative will play out that way, but they've dominated. What's the possession stat? 69% possession?
Yeah, which is a huge amount against a team like Juventus away from home. It's complete domination is what it is.
Final 3, Sparta Prague 1. Final, remember, came back from 3-0 down against Manchester City on the last match day. But Sparta Prague are going to go back. Could be the bite a bit there in Rotterdam if they're not careful. Last minute of the first half. Conceição for Juventus, just over the halfway line, hugging this near touchline, near to where Pep Guardiola is standing in his technical area. Thiago Motta standing a bit more impassive at the edge of his. Ball's back in the Juventus back line with Savona. Tucks it in field to Locatelli. Savona will go back for his keeper. And Di Gregorio on loan from Monza. Began at Inter Milan. Clears out to the left-hand side. Danilo steps in front of Haaland. Kefren Turan with some neat footwork inside his own half. Teases it out to Kalulu. And now Yildiz. Neat ball in field. Vlahovic calling for it over the halfway line. Just a bit of irritation from the Juve fans. They probably want to see Dean a little bit more direct football and getting at Manchester City. They might have that now with Thuram Moulien just shy of the halfway line, but he goes backwards a square to his centre halves.
They're pressing well, Manchester City, though. When they get it right, they're one of the best at it.
Conceição brings the ball in field, plays it through the centre. Koopmeiners works it out to the right-hand side. Vlahovic will give chase. He'll get there ahead of Rico Lewis. We're in 1 minute of minimum added time, which is nearly up. And Savona and Vlahovic fighting for possession. Jeremy Doku has let the ball run out of play, but they've got to get on with it here, Juve, because the half-time whistle will surely go. And indeed, there it does go. Clement Turpin brings the first half to a close. And Manchester City have dominated possession. They've had the best chance of the half through you-know-who, Erling Haaland, but he was denied by a brilliant one-handed save from Michele Di Gregorio. At the other end, Kenan Yildiz had a long-range effort just narrowly wide for Juve's best chance. But at the break, Dean Ashton, we are locked all square. Juventus 0, Manchester City 0.
Lots of good play, lots of sharpness, crisp passing from Manchester City to completely dominate the half in terms of possession, and obviously creating that wonderful chance for Erling Haaland with a magnificent pass from Kevin De Bruyne. He'll have missed him since being out injured, to Haaland, and he'd be disappointed he didn't score, but what a great save it was from Di Gregorio. And Juventus have shown why they're, one of the top sides in Serie A in terms of a defensive unit. They've been so organised. Locatelli putting himself into a great position to help his two centre-backs when they've been crowded at times. It's been a proper defensive display from them. Need a little bit more, and they've shown a couple of times they can find the gaps that City leave. But if the game continues, you would expect City to find a way.
Over the years with Manchester City, because they've been so amazing, such a brilliant team, they've instilled that fear factor in their opposition. Now, do Juve, bearing in mind that they're at home and they need the points just as much as Manchester City do you think they have the belief that they could beat Manchester City here?
Well, they haven't shown at all to really go and press and to put Manchester City under severe pressure. And also when they've won the ball back, because they're so deep, Conceição and Yildiz are getting back, to help their fullbacks out. It means Vlahovic is there pretty much on his own. So it is about bravery. If you want to say to Conceição, you don't have to go and help Savona with Doku, but I'm not sure you can do that.
Well, it's 0-0 at the break. Coming shortly here on Talksport 2 on Champions League Live, you'll hear from the likes of Enzo Maresca and Ange Postecoglou ahead of their European encounters tomorrow, that you can hear live on Talksport 2 through the course of Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening. And we'll bring you the full second half from this game at the Juventus Stadium, where the half-time score is Juventus 0, Manchester City 0.
Champions League live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever the mission, home or away, Enterprise helps over 120,000 people every day.
Julie could part exchange her car. Or check out We Buy Any Car. She could be unsure if she got a good deal part exchanging. Or have cash in the bank with more bargaining power to get a bigger car for her five-a-side team. Totally played. Or total player. To get a quote in 30 seconds, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com. Admin fee may apply. For more information, visit WeBuyAnyCar.com/info.
I'm a Christmas fairy, and if there's one thing I know about, it's giving presents. So, how about an M&S shortbread biscuit tin that's shaped like a tree and projects a little Merry Christmas onto the table? Or the Happy Christmas chocolate box with festive-shaped chocolates, truffles and caramels. Or the Quattro chocolate panettone. That means 4 types of chocolate, by the way. Made with honey in the dough. Can't go wrong. These are not just gifts. These are M&S Christmas gifts. Selected stores.
Get in! Finally found the perfect sofa. A massaging, reclining, pink chaise longue. What a win. Only thing is, I haven't shopped on this site before.
Maybe use PayPal. It could help you feel secure, knowing your card and bank information is safely stored.
Oh, good call. Looks like I'm sitting pretty. Wait.
Really? You're better than that. Don't just pay. PayPal.
Angela Rippon, what are you doing here?
I've come to tell you about using energy flexibly, Albert.
Flexibly?
Yes, smart meter owners could get rewarded for moving their energy use, like doing the laundry at off-peak times.
So I don't need to do the splits?
No, Albert. Nobody wants to see that.
Get rewarded for using energy flexibly, only with a smart meter. Search Get a Smart Meter today.
Eligibility and availability vary. Consumer action required. Reward schemes and tariffs available to selected customers from selected suppliers.
Next Saturday night, get ringside in Riyadh as the Gypsy King faces Usyk. Will it be repeat or revenge? And to celebrate, Talksport and DAZN are giving you the chance to win the ultimate fight night setup. Enter now at talksport.com/competitions and get ready to go the distance to win on Friday at Drive, courtesy of Talksport and DAZN. Watch Usyk vs Fury 2, December 21st, live on DAZN. Buy the pay-per-view now at dazn.com/boxing with no subscription required.
Talksport 2, official broadcast partner of the Premier League and the English Football League.
Thursday night, the Europa League live
on Talksport 2.
High-intensity, expressive football.
And that settles it!
Prison versus Manchester United.
Coverage from 5:30, kick-off 5:45.
An absolute corker.
Thursday night on Talksport 2. No one else brings you more.
The Social with Adiola Depot and Rory Jennings. Tomorrow afternoon from 3 on Talksport 2. Outspoken opinions and decisive debate following all the action.
We talk about football in a bipartisan and educated way. Well, I do at least.
I try.
News, views, fun and football fixtures.
It's not just football though. Bit of boxing, bit of horse racing, even a bit of rugby.
And it's a try!
And some phenomenal guests.
If you can't get in this squad after showing the form he showed, I don't think it looks too good for him.
This is the place to be.
It's Addy and Rory. It's The Social on Talksport 2.
What a goal!
The Social.
Tomorrow afternoon from 3.
It just works, doesn't it? On Talksport 2.
It's another day of box office football here on Talksport. So let's have a quick rundown of today's blockbusting lineup. In midfield, it's Anthony Flash Gordon.
Get heroic coverage of every epic clash.
Morgan Buck Rogers.
On the radio station that knows, with great power comes great responsibility.
And Martin Odegaardians of the Galaxy.
Well, these are the nights when heroes are made, where history will be written.
Also, Kyle Skywalker.
Magnificent counter-attack.
And Tyrone Mings the Merciless.
Supporters assemble! Captain's goal!
Talksport!
On DAB+, online, via the Talksport app and on your smart speaker.
Oh, what a finish!
The Champions League live on Talksport 2.
Half-time score, Juventus 0, Manchester City 0 in our commentary game here on Talksport 2. Ian Danter and Dean Ashton with you this Wednesday evening. Let me run you down the scores elsewhere. In the Championship, they're into the second half of 4 of tonight's 5 games. Preston have just taken the lead at Cardiff. That's 22nd against 18th. Cardiff, nobody in 5, and they've just conceded an own goal. Preston ahead through a Callum Chambers OG at the Cardiff City Stadium. Elsewhere, Hull 0, Watford 0's in the second half. Millwall 0, Sheffield United 1. Rhian Brewster putting Sheffield United ahead before the break. Still goalless between QPR and Oxford. And it's half-time at the Hawthorns, where West Bromwich Albion lead Coventry City by a 1-0. In the Champions League earlier today, in the 5:45 kickoffs, it finished Atletico Madrid 3, Slovan Bratislava 1, and Lille 3, Sturm Graz 2. These are all half-times. Milan 1, Red Star Belgrade 0. Arsenal 1, Monaco 0. That's live on Talk Sport tonight. with Joe Shannon and Darren Bent. Bukayo Saka putting Arsenal ahead there. Benfica 0, Bologna 0, Dortmund 0, Barcelona 0. Final 3, Sparta Prague 1 and Stuttgart 1, Young Boys 1. So you're up to date on the Championship and the Champions League. There is an earlier full time from the Europa League that played in Istanbul tonight. Fenerbahce lost 2-0 at home to Athletic Bilbao. And just quickly in the Women's League Cup, got a few full times because a lot of these games kicked off at 7 o'clock tonight. In the Merseyside derby in Group A, Liverpool 4, Everton 0, Manchester United 5, Newcastle 3, also in Group A. In Group B, it's just about to finish. Blackburn Rovers women 4, Sheffield United 2, and Sunderland 1, Durham women 2 is the latest score in the second half. Group C full times, Portsmouth 2, London City Lionesses 5, and West Ham women 3, Southampton 0. In Group D, it's finished Brighton 6, Bristol City 2, and Leicester City 5, Birmingham City 2. And in Group E, Crystal Palace 0, Tottenham Hotspur 2. And that's just about to finish. And in the last 10 minutes, it's Aston Villa women 3, Charlton 1. So you're up to date. Well, tomorrow we bring you a lot more European football on Talksport 2. Conference League action nice and early in the afternoon for you. So from 3:30, Chelsea are in Kazakhstan to face Astana, looking to continue their unbeaten record in the competition. And ahead of the game, Talksport's Ian Abrahams caught up with the Blues boss Enzo Maresca.
Just going on about that, the defensive side of things, is that something you're going to have to look at in the January transfer window that's coming up? Because you're still obviously well placed in the Premier League and you're flying high in this competition.
No, we are not thinking at all, absolutely, about window transfer to January. We have still many games before that. We have, I think, 6 Premier League games plus 2 conference games, or 5 and 2. We have still many games before January, and now the focus is just about the amount of games that we have before that.
Unlike many journalists, I've asked you about whether or not you're in the title race, and you always tell me no. So that's in the Premier League. What about in this competition? Are you the favourites to win this?
No, we have. I said already many times about this competition. The main target is to go next stage, now the group stage, the next one, and then the next one. Now the target is to go to the next one. Then where we achieve the next one, the target is to go to the next one. I don't like to think about 4 or 5 month fight.
Why? Why don't you like to raise your ambitions?
No, because it's not about ambitious. I'm quite ambitious. The player, they are ambitious. The club is ambitious for the history of the club. But it's because, in my opinion, if you think in 4 or 5 months, probably you can lose a little bit the focus that is just now.
Obviously, Cole Palmer is not in your squad for this competition, so he will have a nice rest ahead of the game with Brentford. On reflection after his performance at Spurs at the weekend, would you say currently, right now on form, he's the best player in England?
Yeah, could be. In this moment, could be. But England is quite lucky in terms of Premier League because there are so many good players. So I think for sure Cole is one of them. But is full of fantastic players, the Premier League.
Chelsea travel to Astana then. That's live on Talksport 2, 3:30 kickoff. Mike Sewell and the former Newcastle midfielder Darren Ambrose will be your commentary team. Tell you the Queen's Park Rangers have taken the lead against Oxford in the Championship. Sam Field putting QPR ahead on a slightly better run than the Martin Cifuentes. Now QPR 4 unbeaten, Oxford no win in 4. Tomorrow here on Talksport 2 we're also going to bring you Europa League action. What a game. Tottenham facing Rangers at Ibrox, and after Sunday's dramatic defeat to Chelsea, Spurs defender Christian Romero lamented the lack of investment by the club in recent times during an interview, as he said, and I quote, "Something is going wrong, hopefully the board realise it." Well, these were the thoughts of his boss, Ange Postecoglou, regarding Romero's comments.
He was obviously very emotional. He's a leader in the club. He hasn't been able to help us, and I think it was his way of trying to, as a leader, to help us and the group in saying that, we're going through a tough time, but he believes in what we're doing. And then, the other part of it probably, he went about it sort of the wrong way in terms of he's passionate about having success at the club, and I think the way he probably expressed it was not the right way, particularly in a public sense, because I don't feel, and certainly not my belief, that our kind of challenges at the moment are because of, one thing or one person. I don't believe that. I never have believed that. I think, whatever we need to do, we have the power to do that, but it'll only happen if we kind of, stay united as a group, particularly through difficult times, get through on the other side, and I really believe if you can do that, you come out stronger.
Ange Postecoglou returns to Glasgow tomorrow night then, and the Rangers fans will give him the warmest of welcomes, I'm sure. Jim Proudfoot and Stuart Pearce will be your commentary team for that Europa League tie. That's appointment to Listen Radio, without question. Make sure you're with us for that. Rangers against Tottenham, 8 o'clock kickoff. At the same time on Talksport, well, just before that actually, on Talksport. It's on Talksport rather, should I say. Do forgive me. Rangers, Tottenham's on Talksport. Before that on Talksport 2, you've also got Victoria Plzeň taking on Manchester United. That's a 5:45 kickoff here on 2. Alex Crook and the former Chelsea defender Scott Minto will be your commentary team for that. Anyway, back to tonight. Juve players are just making their way out onto the pitch. Saw one or two like Weston McKennie and Samuel Mbangula going through some warm-up exercises at the break, but it doesn't appear that Juve are making any switches at half-time. And the City players are on their way out the tunnel now as well. Who's had the more difficult half-time team talk there, Dean Ashton, at the two managers?
To be honest, I don't think either. I think actually Thiago Motta will talk about what a defensive display that was. You've only left the door open once, and you haven't really left the door open. They had to smash it almost with the quality of De Bruyne's pass.
Yeah.
But he'll want a bit more in attack. He'll want a bit more bravery and a bit to spot those gaps when they're there and do it quicker than they have done. And Pep Guardiola will just say, look, this is us, this is what we are. We just need to maybe commit a few more of those midfielders alongside Haaland.
You're listening to the Champions League live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise has vans of all shapes and sizes. So if you've got a plan, we've got a van, and we're back underway at the Juventus Stadium. Juve in their traditional black and white striped shirts with white shorts and socks, going from right to left as we look in this second period. Manchester City in their change strip of the all burgundy shirt, shorts and socks. And I'll run you through the lineups for Manchester City. Ederson in goal, Walker, Diaz, Gvardiol, then Gundogan and Lewis, Doku, Silva, De Bruyne and Grealish, Haaland in attack. For Juve, Di Gregorio the keeper, Savona, Gatti, Kalulu, Danilo, Locatelli and Thuram Ulien, Conceição, Koopmeiners, Yildiz and Vlahovic. And it's with Ruben Diaz, who completed every single pass he made in that first half. Some 48, 49 passes, 100% success rate. You'd expect nothing less of Ruben Diaz. And he tries to get his foot in to keep the ball away from Vlahovic, but the Serb wins it back. Ball's inside the City half out on the left-hand side for Juventus with Danilo, the former City player. Worked in field by Yildiz to Thuram Ulien, who just drops his shoulder and sends a lovely ball out to the right-hand side for Francisco Conceição. Up against Doku, down towards the byline. He's won an early corner in the second half for Juve, hitting the ball against the Belgian. 0-0.
Yeah, a really good pass from Thuram Ulien. Just reversing it out towards Conceição. Good defensive work from Doku as well. Yildiz, he's been the one, hasn't he, in the first half. He was the one that showed the spark.
So a left-footed in-swinging corner to come from Turn Koopmeiners for Juventus. Strikes it now to around the 6-yard line. Headed out by Diaz. Comes out to the edge of the area and Yildiz. Well, he eventually finds a pass, but Koopmeiners is offside. He shanked it off the outside of his boot. Koopmeiners went to retrieve it down by that corner flag, but he was a good 5 or 6 yards offside. Easiest flag that assistant's ever had to put up in his life. Free kick, 0-0.
Yeah, he just turned away, didn't he, Yildiz? He didn't even notice that he ended up with Koopmeiners because such a horrible attempt at the volley from the edge of the area. So Ederson restored to the City starting lineup tonight after Stefan Ortega's been given the nod the last couple. As Pep Guardiola looks to shake things up a little bit.
Still a few long-term absentees. Stones out for a little while. Kovacic back on the bench tonight, we should notice.
Yeah, that's important in that midfield area. Obviously still some young players on the bench that have been given some opportunities in recent games.
Yeah, Simpson Pusey I saw play recently. Thought he looked like a real prospect. Of course, Oscar Bob, who's a real prospect, is out long term with an injury picked up in pre-season, which is very sad for him. I found it interesting that they let Micah Hamilton go. Scored in the Champions League last season. He's now at Middlesbrough. Thought he showed promise that he could make a breakthrough into the City first team, but he went off to the Riverside instead. We're in the 3rd minute of the second half on Talksport 2. Walker sends it down the right hand side looking for De Bruyne, but across steps Kalulu, the centre half, and just nicks it out of play for a Manchester City throw. Walker, the City captain, looking for an option. Not much movement around him. De Bruyne's now come short for the throw. Haaland showing at the right hand corner of the penalty area. Now Gundogan comes close to the ball, receives it and gets it back into his own half for Ruben Diaz. Diaz runs across the line from right to left. Now he's faced up by Koopmeiners, rolls it just ahead of him to Gundogan. He teases it out to Bernardo Silva on the near side, the City right. Gundogan again gives it back to Bernardo Silva. Not much room to operate in because Juve do close down the space very well, it seems to me, Dean Ashton.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty deal. De Bruyne around the side.
Trying to send a cross into the area. Breaks for Gundogan. It's blocked by Gatti. Haaland tried to tee up Grealish but didn't get the connection. And Juve got it clear, but suddenly De Bruyne had space down the right-hand side of the box and City looked dangerous again, 0-0.
It's so rare that he ever just puts it in to the box without looking. De Bruyne always just gets his head up, finds the pass in towards Gundogan, who tried to just side foot it into the corner. His body angle wasn't quite right, he was too straight onto it, so it made it really obvious where he was going, and blocked in the end.
0-0.
Once again.
Doku, left-hand side for City, looking to go on the outside of Savona. 5 minutes gone, second half. He's still got it down by the corner flag. Doku gets it back to Grealish, rolling it back down the line. He had 3 players around him then, Jeremy Doku. Still managed to work it back to a teammate. Ruben Diaz, midway point of the Juve half, rolls it to his right for Walker. Now out to Bernardo Silva. Silva rolls the ball up to the edge of the area. Little dummy from Gundogan, hoping that Haaland would profit from that, but he didn't. And Juve have it back. Chelsea women 5-1 up on FC Twente now. Shurka Nushkin with the latest goal for Sonia Bonpastor's side. And Vlahovic has just won a free kick for Juve, just shy of the halfway line. 0-0 here on Talksport 2.
I haven't seen enough of that in recent weeks. Ruben Diaz seems only a small thing, but just making a foul on the halfway line. Vlahovic takes it in and just clatters into him. Not a yellow card, but just completely stops any of the momentum.
Kalulu for Juve, to the left back Danilo. Rolls it down the line for Yildiz, who kept the ball away from Kyle Walker. They're working the ball slowly up towards the halfway line, Juventus. Kefren Turam, who the end takes over, goes back to the edge of his own box, and Pierre Kalulu finds Koopmeiners just at the edge of the centre circle. It was so nearly intercepted by Doku, but instead Conceição on the far right-hand side of the field has possession, just shy of the halfway line. This game brought to you in partnership with TNT Sports, the home of European football. And the setting tonight on Talksport 2 is the Juventus Stadium in northern Italy. Juve 0, Manchester City 0. Gatti finds Savona, faced up by Doku, midway point of his own half, so he goes backwards to square to Gatti and across to Pierre Kalulu, who's on loan from Milan. Tucked in field by Yildiz to Thuram. Good drop of the shoulder from him. Fires it up to Vlahovic on halfway, but the ball snakes away from him and City have it back. Grealish goes to ground, caught off the ball. No free kick, says the referee. Had a bit of a look at it and allowed play to continue. De Bruyne just too much of a heavy touch as he tried to run through the centre of midfield. It's picked up by Juve. Gatti drives into the City half and works it out right for Conceição. He stayed forward in this attack, Gatti, the centre half. He's in the box, waiting for a cross, as is Vlahovic. Conceição still has it, driving for the byline. Works it back to Savona. Savona gives it back into midfield for Locatelli. First touch sends the cross into the box. Volley goes by Gatti, blocked away by Ederson, and it's not clear yet. Ball sent back into the box by Yildiz, and what a save on the line by Ederson to deny Vlahovic, but the goal's been given. Vlahovic has put Juve ahead. Ederson thought he kept it out, but the goal decision system thought otherwise. And the Serb has put Juve ahead, and Manchester City's European prospects take a huge hit in Turin. 8 minutes gone, second half. They didn't clear their lines. Vlahovic's header crept over the line, and it's Juve 1, Manchester City 0.
Big trouble again for Manchester City. First of all, Gatti. He was the one that intercepted De Bruyne. He's the one that drove forward, and then once it was played wide, he got himself into the box. And then he tries the overhead kick. Brilliant technique and connection that Ederson saves. It's recycled out towards Yildiz, and he puts in a great cross. And it's a really, really clever push in the back from Vlahovic. Just at the last second, he just puts his hand on Gvardiol, just so he misses it. And he's so close. He must be 3 yards out. And he just heads it powerfully against Ederson. It hits him in the chest, falls over the line. Ederson can't quite retrieve it. Manchester City are behind.
Well, that's his 51st goal for Juve, having been at the club since 2022. 23 rather, from Fiorentina. And yet Ederson just couldn't keep the ball out. It just dropped off his chest, and it landed right next to the side netting. And even with a naked eye, you could sort of tell that it was and only just over the line. But that's what the GDS system is there for. And City are behind on Talksport 2.
Well, he's so close to Ederson. Ederson, he can't react in time. It's too fast. The header's from a yard and a half away.
Yeah, you can't whip Ederson for that. It's just well
really
unlucky. Something in the way.
It's actually really unlucky that it almost. And again, if that hits his shoulder, it probably pings out.
Yeah.
It hits the softness of his chest and just falls to the floor and over the line.
Elsewhere, Queen's Park Rangers have got a second against Oxford. 2-0 they lead. Another for Sam Field tonight. And Barcelona lead in Dortmund. Rafinha makes it Borussia Dortmund 0. Barcelona 1. Here comes Bernardo Silva trying to respond for Manchester City, although he runs into Danilo, who toe pokes it out of play for a throw to the visitors. Here's Gundogan. Now the tempo's got to increase, you sense, from Manchester City. Stuttgart 2-1 up on Young Boys. Enzo Milot. Bernardo Silva teases the ball into the area, but Thuram back defending, and Kalulu brings the ball clear at pace for Juve. Works it out left to Yildiz. Vlahovic just inside the City half. Plays the ball with the outside of his left foot, looking for Conceição's come across. Good pace from the on-loan Portuguese. Flicks it out to the left for the goal scorer Vlahovic. Puts the cross into the box. Header is a bit wayward from Savona, who'd got forward from right back. Didn't really believe in himself as that cross came in. It's out of play for a City goal kick. And the changes that Pep Guardiola makes at this point in this game, you sense are going to be absolutely pivotal to the outcome in this game, Dean Ashton. 1-0 Juve.
It is, but Juve have had a bit more. When they have won it, they've flooded forwards with 4 or 5 players. Savona, that time the fullback, ending up in the penalty area from a counter-attack. So they're starting to sense that there's more goals on the counter-attack for them.
Bernardo Silva up to the edge of the Juve area, rolls it across to Grealish inside the D. Locatelli facing him up. Now Doku takes over. Left-hand side of the box. Great feet. Shot is blocked by Gatti. Comes out to Lewis. His shot is blocked by Kurt Miners. All hands to the pump for Juve. Trying to stop City getting past them. Now Walker with a run down the right-hand side of the box. Crosses into the area, but Locatelli there again for Juve. And then the ball's won by Gundogan, right-hand side, stealing off Kalulu. Good spell of pressure here for Manchester City. Can they make it count? De Bruyne trying to roll it into the feet of Haaland. Bit lazy. Picked off by Juve. Vlahovic up to halfway. Clips the ball to the right for the run of Conceição. Keeps it in play on the right-hand side. Gvardiol out there with him. Koopmeiners and Vlahovic up with Conceição. Gets into the area. Greedy. tried a shot, come to be blocked, and City clear.
Yeah, he never quite got away from Gvardiol. He was always there to block the shot. But again, bit of sloppy play from Man City, and they flood forwards. Vlahovic towards Conceição, and 3 Juventus players in the penalty area. If Conceição gets his head up, gaining more and more confidence after that goal.
58 minutes gone in actual fact on Talksport 2. It is Juventus 1, Manchester City 0. City do not want to suffer successive away defeats in the Champions League. It would put their chances of qualification very much into doubt. But here's Grealish inside the D, lovely quick feed, finds Bernardo Silva, tried to pass it into the net, and it was blocked behind by Danilo for a Manchester City corner on their right-hand side. 1-0 Juve.
Yeah, good play from Gundogan, releasing Grealish. Great bit of footwork from him on the edge of the area. I'm thinking you should do it yourself. And he spots a great little pass. Lovely weight on it for Bernardo Silva, who is trying just to come onto that from the right-hand side, pass it into that far corner. It was read by the goalkeeper and the defenders. Maybe just whip it near post.
De Bruyne with a right-wing corner into the near post, hits the first defender, Koopmeiners. Delivery's not quite been there from set pieces yet for Kevin De Bruyne, but this time Yildiz being forced back towards his own dead ball line. Oh, he did so well to clip it in field for Kalulu with 3 City players around him, but the clearance from Juve only goes to halfway and City have it back. Gvardiol finds Grealish. He rolls it back to Ruben Diaz at the edge of the centre circle. De Bruyne to his right. That's Bernardo Silva calling for it. Up against Danilo. Level with the edge of the area now, Bernardo Silva. Plays it back into square for the captain, Kyle Walker. Silva again. Once again looks for Kyle Walker. Tucks it infield to Gundogan. Once more, Juventus have everybody back behind the ball in their own defensive 13, Ashton.
But they're staying outside the area. That's a great pass.
Doku into the area across the face of goal, but it was not there for Haaland to clear, and the offside flag went up against Doku anyway. It was a lovely pass, as Dean Ashton rightly said, but it just gone a margin too early. Doku, Gundogan lifted it over the top of the defenders, and it ended up just being a free kick for offside. And we're just seeing the images from the goal decision system, and it was actually quite well over the line from Vlahovic's header. There was clear distance between the edge of the ball and the back of the white line. 1-0 Juventus, an hour gone on Talksport 2. Jeopardy for Manchester City in the Champions League. And here is Kenan Yildiz down the left-hand side of the box for Juve, who created that cross for the first, fires it into the near post. Ederson's lost it, can't grab it at the second attempt, but he's bailed out by defenders around him as he was put off trying to claim it at the near post by Koopmeiners.
Yeah, it was a wicked delivery from Yildiz. Just can go either way, right or left, just shifts it onto his left foot. Wicked ball in, and I think it's just because of the run to the near post that Ederson just is off put slightly.
Doku wants a free kick as he went down at the left-hand corner of the penalty area under pressure from Locatelli. Holds his arms out to the referee, pleading, but gets nothing. Meantime, again, Juventus had players running forward. There was a run by Koopmeiners, the inside right channel. That's, I think, who the Juve fans had spotted. They roared as they saw him making the run, but he wasn't used. You're listening to Juventus 1, Manchester City 0 in the Champions League, live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever the mission, home or away, Enterprise helps over 120,000 people every day. And what a mission for Manchester City at this point, Dean Ashton. 1-0 down, over an hour gone, and Juve seemingly growing in confidence, having taken that 1-goal lead.
Well, they are, because they especially with Manchester City needing to get back into the game, there will be those gaps that will open up on the counter-attack, and they are flooding forwards. It is different to the first half where they were very, very conservative. Not so. Conceição, Yildiz, a lot higher, a lot wider, just to open Manchester City up.
1-0 here to Juve. Borussia Dortmund equalise against Barcelona. Serhou Guirassy equalising for the German side. Manchester City in possession. They're a goal down here on Talksport 2. Trying to do something about it with Kevin De Bruyne out to the left-hand side and Jeremy Doku. Doku back inside for De Bruyne. Lovely ball. Doku inside the area. Across the face of goal and no one there to tuck it home. And it will eventually dribble out of play for a goal kick. Super run from Jeremy Doku. Stayed on his feet. Pulled it back across the face of goal. But it was nowhere near Erling Haaland, who was notionally the closest player to try and tuck it in.
No, look, it's your job as a forward to make a dart, whether that's to the near post or the far post. It ends up being Haaland that makes the dart to the near post, ball is played to the back post. So really, it should be Bernardo Silva that sees the run of Haaland and makes sure that he covers the back post. He doesn't just stand still. And Doku's saying, come on, that is literally a tap-in for you if you make the run. So it's brilliant from him. Just put it across the 6-yard line, ready to be tapped in.
That's the thoughts of Dean Ashton on Talksport, former England and West Ham striker. City have won a corner, right-hand side. They've taken it short to Gundogan, worked back into midfield for Walker. Gundogan again on the City right. De Bruyne hugging the right-hand touchline. He took the corner. Tried to play it forward to Bernardo Silva, but Juve won it back. Conceição pirouettes inside his own half. Tried to feed it up to the run of Savono, who was making a run the right back into the City half, but Pep's men have it back. Grealish finds De Bruyne, 30 yards out, going to go for goal maybe. No, he slides in Doku, right hand side of the box, the cross is half blocked. Silva turns it back to De Bruyne, surely he'll go for goal. Tees up Gundogan, it's blocked by Locatelli, and then Walker has a shot blocked by Kalulu, and Ruben Diaz retrieves. 1-0 Juve, it stays.
Just all a little bit indecisive from Manchester City. Couple of times players could have taken the shot on earlier, they didn't, then they pull back, play the pass to their teammate, shot is blocked once again. How many blocks have Juventus defenders had in this game already?
Grealish for Manchester City, just over 25 minutes to go on Talksport 2. Gundogan in the centre of the Juve half. I thought he was going to shoot for a minute then, but then Thuram Ullien came to close down the space. So Gundogan has to look elsewhere. Feyenoord 4, Sparta Prague 1. And VfB Stuttgart 3, Young Boys 1, elsewhere in the Champions League tonight. So we're into the last 25 minutes in Turin. Grealish can't get the better of Locatelli. God, he works hard, Manuel Locatelli, doesn't he? For Juventus, Dean Ashton, you'd love to have a player like that.
I mean, it's the reading, but then it's the effort, isn't it? It can't just be the reading of it. You've got to cover the ground as he has done, helped his centre-backs out, a couple of magnificent blocks.
Silva, great ball in field to De Bruyne, goes for goal. It's wide by a good 2 or 3 yards, but that's a sighter for Kevin De Bruyne. 1-0 Juventus.
It is. Great ball into him, great take on the half-turn. We know he can strike a ball beautifully. This time, I think just because he's under pressure, he can't quite follow through with the strike, so he almost stabs at it and just pulls across it slightly 3 or 4 yards wide. He would have liked to have really followed through that and cut across the ball.
All lobbed downfield from Juve. Vlahovic knew he was in an offside position, so he had to run back and couldn't go to collect it, so it just bounced through to Ederson. Santiago Jimenez, who got that fourth for Feyenoord there. Very much in demand Mexican striker. Wonder whether we might see him in the Premier League or in another major European league before too long. There's quite a few clubs courting him at the moment. Ball's up to halfway. Manchester City looking to redress the balance here. It's 1-0 to Juve. Doku, who's been really lively all night, in fairness to him, on that left-hand side, finds Rico Lewis. It is with Ruben Diaz once again in the centre circle. Gundogan takes it off his toe, just ahead of the centre circle. Walker calling for it on this near side. The right gets it now. Faced up by Kalulu, who's come out to engage him, and Danilo. Goes back in field to Rico Lewis in the centre of the Juve half. Floats the ball out to Grealish left-hand side. Savona watching him. Grealish jockeying him down the left-hand side of the penalty area. Rolls it back for Gvardiol. Across to Gundogan, edge of the area. Tries to curl it. Goal was great. Save Di Gregorio. That was heading for the top corner. And Di Gregorio flew across to his left-hand side and palmed it round the corner for a corner that City have taken quickly. Short routine between Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne. Now Bernardo Silva, little reverse ball. Gundogan tried to play it across the face of goal, and Gatti this time blocked it behind. 1-0 Juve. They're hanging on here to this one-goal leader City press.
I've got to say, City have been brilliant. The interplay, the quality, the freshness of every pass in towards their teammate. Gundogan it was on the edge of the area that just got himself free and looking to bend into the top corner. Di Gregorio with a beautiful right-handed over-the-top save. And then Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, the interplay, just lending it to each other. Gundogan thought, I'm just going to whip this in towards Haaland along the 6-yard line, and once again another block is there.
Double change for Juve. Weston McKennie, who Talksport 2 listeners will remember being at Leeds United not so long ago on loan from Juve. He's coming on for Kefren Thuram in that holding midfield road, and the American Timothy Weah has come on for Conceição. And the Conceição picked up that injury in the first half, might be feeling the effects of that. So a double change as Thiago Motta blinks first ahead of Pep Guardiola with a 1-0 lead to protect.
Well, he'll sense that City have started to get through at least into the area of Juventus's defence. It feels like a matter of time before they get the equaliser, and actually maybe wants the freshness as well of Timothy Weah on the counter-attack.
Hull City 1, Watford 0 in the Championship. Ruben Selles now in charge at Hull, and Chris Beria has given them the lead. They haven't won or kept a clean sheet in 10 matches, Hull City. But they lead at the MKM late on. It's about 8 minutes to go there. 20 minutes just over to go here on Talksport 2 between Juventus and Manchester City. And Juve lead by 1-0. Vlahovic's header that Ederson couldn't keep out at close range. The GDS system ruled it was over the line. Here's Grealish for Manchester City, level with the 18-yard line, left-hand side. Support from Bernardo Silva. And it's rolled back into midfield for Ruben Diaz. Doku's come out onto the right-hand side for a moment. Collects it now. 2 Juve players for company. He's level with the 18-yard line. Tries to go on the outside of Danilo, but Juve win it back. Gets no change out of those 2 defenders there, Jeremy Doku. And now Koopmeiners is giving chase down the left-hand side. Forces Ruben Diaz to get out of play, and they take the throw quickly using the multi-ball system. And Vlahovic bursts into the area, but Gvardiol calmly back to his goalkeeper. And City can build again from the back. 20 to go, 1-0 Juve.
Yeah, Vlahovic didn't realise that Gvardiol was there, and that Gvardiol is pretty rapid, and just was able to cover Ruben Diaz.
Balls out to the left-hand side for Jack Grealish. Rico Lewis. Gundogan. Into the feet of Bernardo Silva. He's gone across to that left-hand side to allow Doku to switch to the right. Grealish out there too. Level with the edge of the area, up against Savona. Checks back onto his right foot rather than the left. Finds Rico Lewis. Lewis chips it out to Doku on the right-hand side. Brings it down the right-hand side of the box. To the right-hand corner of the area. Walker takes the touch, floats across to the far post. Headed out by Gatti. Comes out to Gvardiol, who drives down the left-hand side of the area to the byline. Wins a corner of Timothy Weah. And City press again, looking for an equaliser.
Yeah, the tempo's been really good since they conceded that goal. Manchester City really penned them in, haven't they?
Short corner again, Grealish picks it up. Left-hand side, De Bruyne out to the left wing, and Bernardo Silva dumps the defender on the seat of his pants. De Bruyne goes for goal, and it's well over, and the keeper had it covered, I think, from about 25 yards out. Red Star have equalised in Milan, 1-1 there. Nemanja Radonjic in the Champions League. They're 31st in the table ahead of tonight, just 1 win. That was against Stuttgart by Red Star, or Crvena Zvezda as you might know them by. And it's 1-0 here to Juve, and time is starting to run out for Manchester City, and still we await the first change from the substitutes bench for Pep Guardiola, which can't be far away, you would imagine. Ball chested out of play by Vlahovic, the goal scorer.
Also, it wouldn't be the first time that I've seen Guardiola do this, where you think there has to be a change coming in, and he doesn't. He just leaves the players out there to almost, figure it out for themselves and trust that what they've worked on will eventually get them through.
Celtic women 0, Real Madrid 2 in the Women's Champions League. Sinja Bruin with a second for Real Madrid on the night. Celtic destined to go through that entire group stage without a single point to their name. Manchester City heading for successive away defeats in the Champions League unless they can do something about this situation that they face in Turin. 17 minutes to go, Juve 1 up. City though again with a lot of the ball as they had in the first half. Still 2/3 of possession is theirs. Can they make something of it? Ruben Diaz just ahead of the centre circle finds Rico Lewis. Gvardiol tucks it in field to Gundogan. Heavy first touch, but he keeps possession. And then poor pass back to Gvardiol, has to hunker back to the halfway line to keep it for Manchester City. And now Lewis, just to the left of the centre circle, gets his head up, looks for an option. Short of him is Gundogan. Watford equalise at Hull, 1-1. Rocco Vata with the equaliser for Hull. Doku can't get the better of Danilo, the former Manchester City man. And he's in possession now and tucks a lovely ball in field for Weston McKennie. Way are the other substitute. It's away on the right-hand side into the area. Angles tightly, tries to pull it across for Vlahovic. Tucks it back. Weston McKennie! 2-0 Juve! The substitutes combine to put Pep Guardiola's Manchester City under severe pressure in the Champions League. Thiago Motta made the change. Suddenly Juve broke way away on the right-hand side. First cross blocked, second cross volleyed home expertly by Weston McKennie. And it's Juve 2, Manchester City 0.
Freshness on the counter-attack against Manchester City at the moment will do some damage. There was no freshness about the defensive play. Rico Lewis slightly out of position, couldn't get towards Timothy Ware. And then when he just clips it back in, who is picking up? Weston McKennie, who finds himself totally free on the penalty spot. It's a brilliant volley. He's stretching side volley into the ground and past Ederson. And rightly so, Diaz is screaming. Who is picking him up?
It's his second Champions League goal of the campaign, Weston McKennie. Scored against PSV. That one is a real blow to Manchester City and their prospects. Never mind of a top 8 finish, making sure they're in the top 24.
I mean, they've got PSG away in the next Champions League game. This was always going to be crucial, this fixture.
They've got 15 minutes to save themselves from 2-0 down here, Manchester City. You're listening to Juve Man City in the Champions League live on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise has vans of all shapes and sizes, so if you've got a plan, we've got a van. Pep Guardiola had better have a plan. But here come Juve again. Yildiz over the halfway line, up against Walker. He's got support by Danilo on the underlap. Across the face of goal, it's cleared away by City. Good defending at the near post. West Brom go 2-0 up on Karlan Grant in the Championship, on Coventry City rather. It's Karlan Grant's got the goal. It's not West Brom 2, Karlan Grant 0. It's West Brom 2, Coventry 0. Getting all excited. Doku for Manchester City. 2-0 down. This is going to be 1 win in 10 for Manchester City. You would never have believed it possible. Grealish, left-hand side, gives it back to Gvardiol. Thought about putting the cross into the box, but instead lays it to his right for Gundogan. Gvardiol tucks it back again to Gundogan. Good ball into the box. Silva looked to find De Bruyne, but the ball ricocheted off a Juve boot, and the goalkeeper Di Gregorio gratefully plunged on top of the loose ball, and it stays 2-0 to Juve on Talksport 2.
Oh, that was just a toe. That was all it was that stopped that ball going through to De Bruyne, who would have just turned and been facing the goalkeeper inside the area. But it's been the story of Juventus's defensive display. They've just always been there. They've always been able to block when they've needed to.
Savinho's waiting to come on for Manchester City, but he's going to have to bide his time. Danilo's gone down injured meantime, needs some treatment. Gives me a chance to let you know that Preston look like they've taken all 3 points from the Cardiff City Stadium. Now Preston 2-0 up. Milutin Osmajic has got the second for the Lily Whites. Cardiff 0, Preston 2. Borussia Dortmund 1, Barcelona 2. Ferran Torres once off Manchester City with the second goal for Barca. Stuttgart 5, Young Boys 1. 3 live games for you tomorrow across the Talksport network from Europe. From 3:30 here on Talksport 2, it's Astanta against Chelsea in the Conference League, followed by Victoria Plzeň against Manchester United at 5:45, and then at 8 o'clock over on Talksport, Rangers against Tottenham. Savinho on, Doku off, Dean Ashton.
I mean, look, Doku, of course, looks so dangerous, but Sink's coming to the right-hand side. He's probably not as dangerous as he was over on the left, and he feels as if he wants to keep Grealish out on that side. Savinho's always been bright every time I've seen him in a Manchester City shirt so far.
Fantastic, yeah. So that's the first change that Pep Guardiola's made. Here's Savinho straight into the action up against Danilo, and Danilo's won the throw. Hit it against Savinho, so he's won that first duel. 79 minutes gone in the Juventus Stadium. Juve 2, Manchester City 0 on Talksport 2. Ball thrown into Vlahovic, who got the first, and it's now 2-0 to Arsenal, and Bukayo Saka has scored 2 on the night as well. That's over on Talksport right now. Arsenal 2, Monaco 0. Arsenal going back into the top 8. Manchester City, as it stands, nowhere near the top 8 in the Champions League table. Here is Savinho tucking it infield for Kyle Walker. Now here's Gundogan finding Rico Lewis up towards the edge of the area. Bernardo Silva, twinkle toes from him, keeps it away from Locatelli. Gvardiol might measure a ball into the box from the left-hand side, elects not to cross, gives it back to Gundogan, centre of the half. Whistles go up around the stadium as City keep possession. Again, everybody back behind the ball in the black and white stripes in their own defensive third. Grealish, left-hand side up against Savona. Gets the ball onto his right, feints the cross but checks. Gets his head up, rolls it back in field to Gundogan. Now Kyle Walker looks for Kevin De Bruyne. Back across for Gundogan. They're looking to thread the needle here at Manchester City. De Bruyne out to Savinho, right-hand corner of the penalty area. Gets the ball on his left foot. Will he send a cross in? No, gives it back to De Bruyne. First time ball headed out by Locatelli. There again for Juventus with the important interception. And the ball eventually gets all the way back to Ederson as Borussia Dortmund equalise for a second time against Barcelona. 2-2 in the Champions League, and a second for Serhou Guirassy as well.
I mean, every time Manchester City have got in and around the area, Locatelli's timing of when he drops has been exquisite. He doesn't start there, he just drops at the right moment, so you think that pass is on, or you think you can get your shot off, and he's just there. Been outstanding.
Hull and Watford have finished 1-1, so no win in 11 for Hull City, having been pegged back in that game. Walker for Manchester City, 2-0 down against Juve. Finds Grealish scheming around the edge of the area, clipped by Locatelli. Free kick to Manchester City, 25, maybe 30 yards out to the left of centre. As it stands in the table, City will be in 22nd on 8 points from 6 games. Paris Saint-Germain, who they go to next in the Champions League in January, they're outside the top 24 in 25th on 7 points, just a point behind Pep's men, ahead of what would be an absolute disbuster of a game in Paris in early January, particularly if things stay as they are. But City have got a chance here to get themselves back in this game. They're 2-0 down, 8 minutes to go, but Kevin De Bruyne standing over a free kick just to the left of centre. There's a 3-man wall. De Bruyne flicks it into the area. Up goes Diaz, tries to get the head to it. And Timothy Weah just hooks it away for Juventus. The ball goes out of play for a City throw, taken quickly by Rico Lewis. Juve, for their part, with this 3 points they're getting, going up to 13th in the table, and they'd just be 2 points behind Brest and Inter and Villa and Leverkusen and Arsenal and Dortmund and Barcelona, all on 13 points between 2nd and 8th. Liverpool on 18 are just in a different postcode to everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels as if it is going to go down to the last match day, isn't it?
Yeah.
No matter what Manchester City do against PSG, that could still leave them, obviously having to win their final game.
Which is against Club Brugge, who are in mid-table at the moment, 19th. They've got 10 points, the Belgian side. Who knows what they might want to be playing for come match day 8. Cardiff 0, Preston 2 is a full-time score, so now he's got the job permanently, Omar Risa, at Cardiff. It's not going his way, and that's a much-needed win for Paul Heckingbottom and Preston, their first win in 11 games for them tonight. Douglas Luiz back fit again for Juve. Not had the easiest time of it since moving to Juve from Aston Villa. Is coming on, and so too is the man that scored the late equaliser at the weekend to rescue a point for Juve against Bologna. That's Samuel Bangula, the Belgian under-21. So Yildiz going off. And who's the other player going off? I think it was Vlahovic, it is. So Vlahovic and Yildiz, two of the better players in Juve's starting lineup. So certainly Vlahovic, he got his goal. He's back in the side. They've missed him whilst he's been away. But Juve are creeping towards victory here, Dean Ashton. Just over 5 minutes of normal time to play.
Yeah, and those changes say everything about the mentality now. I mean, they'll feel like they can hold Manchester City anyway, because they have done for so much of the game. They've only been opened up once. That one chance for Haaland is all they've really had. Everything else has been crosses or pullbacks in the area or shots from outside the area.
Millwall 0, Sheffield United 1 is a full-time score, so that first half strike from Rhian Brewster puts Sheffield United back on top of the Championship, a point clear of Leeds United, both having played 20 games. We've got more Championship action for you on Friday night from Pride Park. Derby County on a bit of a losing streak at the minute, taking on Portsmouth. Here's De Bruyne for Manchester City at 2-0 down the right-hand side of the box, pulls it back. And once again, there's players there to win it for Juve inside their own penalty area.
Yeah, all three of the midfielders, McKennie, Locatelli, Douglas Luiz, all right there with the centre-backs and tracking runs.
Yellow card for Bernardo Silva for getting involved with the goalkeeper, Di Gregorio. Another win for QPR, creeping up the Championship table and sending Oxford closer towards the relegation zone. QPR 2, Oxford 0. QPR are now up to 19th in the table, having leapfrogged Oxford United. Good win for Marty Cifuentes and his men. They're still playing at the Hawthorns, where it's West Brom 2, Coventry City 0. That was an 8 o'clock kickoff, just like this game. Arsenal 2 up, Manchester City 2-0 down, and a foul by Kyle Walker, bringing down Mbangula, who's not long as a substitute and is flat on his back inside the City half, but he's been picked up by his teammate. And is that Matheus Nunes coming on for Manchester City? I think it is, for Jack Grealish. But Nunes not got long to make an impact on this game, Dean Ashton. He's got less than 4 minutes of normal time plus stoppage. Meantime, Douglas Luiz gets nudged to the ground, does he, by Kyle Walker? Nothing doing, says the referee. That wasn't a foul. And so Manchester City have a goal kick. 2-0 down, though.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to produce something special to level this up, the way Juventus have defended, and with the personnel that they've now brought on to shore things up defensively. I'd be very, very surprised. I think it's going to be another very, very disappointing result, albeit it's been a decent performance. But those frailties on the break, every team now is looking at that and targeting it whenever they can.
03717 223344. That will get you to Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy on the sports bar over on Talksport from 10 p.m. Has anyone seen? Oh, it's Jermaine Pennant with Jason Cundy tonight. Sorry, not Jamie O'Hara. He's probably having an early night ahead of Tottenham at Rangers tomorrow night. Going to gird his loins ahead of another potential horrible night. Here's De Bruyne for Manchester City. 2 minutes to go. Can't ride the challenge of Danilo. Chest it down for Mbangula. Gives it back to the former Manchester City man. Tries to steer it infield, but it's picked up by Gundogan. Now Bernardo Silva down the right-hand side of the box. Crosses into the area. Haaland tries to take a touch, but it gets away from him. Barcelona 3-2 up at Dortmund late on. Ferran Torres with a second of the night for him and a third for Barca. Chelsea's women 6-1 up on FC Twente. Yves Perecer with the latest, and Real Madrid 3-0 up on Celtic's women in the Champions League as well. Here is Matheus Nunes for Manchester City, desperately trying to claw their way back into this game, but time is very much against Pep Guardiola's men. Nunes comes in field from the left-hand touchline, plays it across to Kyle Walker, the captain. Now Bernardo Silva, right-hand corner of the area, thought about sending a cross in, rolls it back to Gundogan, and then he plays it back as a square to Ruben Diaz, trying to find that perfect pass. Gvardiol out to the left-hand side. Savinho wants it now. Infield it goes to Rico Lewis. Back for De Bruyne. Chips it into the area. Gvardiol's made a forward run. Gives it back to Rico Lewis. Drive is deflected, and the deflection helped the keeper. Straight into the path of Di Gregorio, who was on the turf, but just clutched hold of it gratefully. 2-0 Juve.
Yeah, but Rico Lewis feels that this is a handball and a penalty. He feels like he takes the strike on and that it hits Gatti's hand. Although his arm is close to his body, it almost gets trapped between his thigh and his hand.
I wouldn't say his hand was in an unnatural position, so it would have been harsh, I suppose. But those are the breaks that you want as a manager. The 90 minutes is up. We're into added time, and there's only 2 minutes of added time in the Juventus Stadium. Well, there haven't been that many substitutions, in fairness, so I guess there's a point to that. But Manchester City are staring down the barrel here of even progressing to the knockout stages of the Champions League. Unthinkable at the start of the campaign.
Oh, it is. It is, and like I said before the game, sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. You still need players to come back. You'd like more options, like a John Stones, like an Ake, Kanji. Phil Foden's been ill, he's on the bench, but maybe he's not ready.
Yeah, he was warming up quite vigorously in the second half, but has not come on tonight, Phil Foden. 3-0 to Arsenal, by the way. Kai Havertz. Points are safe for Arteta's men. No points at all for Manchester City. And Weah is clipped by Gvardiol. That's a free kick to Juve inside their own half. And Pep Guardiola stands at the edge of his technical area, fairly impassive, but he knows this is not what he signed up for in the Champions League, as time is very much against the citizens. Long ball downfield collected by Timothy Weah, but Rico Lewis puts it out for a throw. Again, they'll take their time over this Juve. We've almost played the 2 minutes of minimum added time. And Savona will take the throw in. Flags are already waving around the stadium. Savona takes the throw. Down to the corner flag, right-hand side. The referee blows the full-time whistle. Manchester City have lost successive away Champions League games, and their progress to the knockout stages in any way possible is now hanging by a thread after a 2-0 defeat in Turin. Dusan Vlahovic with a header that Ederson could not keep out early in the second half. And then Weston McKennie on as a substitute with an acrobatic volley 15 minutes from time. Di Gregorio made a couple of important saves, notably in the first half from Erling Haaland when the score was at 0-0. But Manchester City now have just one win in 10 matches in all competitions. More questions for Pep Guardiola to answer about how to arrest this awful run that nobody saw coming at the start of this season. Manchester City hanging on to a top 24 spot just with 2 to play. Next, they go to Paris Saint-Germain, who are just outside that top 24. What a game that will be in January. But for now, City have to lick their wounds in Turin. It's finished. Juventus 2, Manchester City 0. Dean Ashton.
It's happened again for Manchester City. They've been shot shy in forward areas and they've been massively exposed once again on the counter-attack when they leave spaces, and the indecision from the defence is all there to see. Yes, there was some good performances. Yes, there was some terrific play from Manchester City in and around the area. Juventus defended brilliantly, I have to say. But still, that edge at the moment isn't there in both boxes. And it has to be a worry, surely, the longer this goes on for Pep Guardiola.
Well, I don't know whether this has got anything to do with this new format and the way that the games are structured. But you think how many times City under Pep Guardiola have won all 6 of their group stage games in the previous way that the group stages unfold, when you had home and away games against 3 teams. I think 7 times they've done it. They did it last season. They won all 6 group stage. But here, they've now suffered back-to-back away defeats in the Champions League after being beaten at Sporting, drawing at home to Feyenoord when 3-0 up, and losing here tonight. Once again, Dean Ashton, there are more questions than answers for Pep Guardiola.
Well, there is. I mean, you know, in that run since they beat Southampton at home, that 10-game run that they've had, how often do you say they failed to score? You know, to fail to score in 3 of those, you're so used to seeing 2s and 3s from this City side. Most of the time it's been 0 or 1 in that 10-game run. And also, that's now 23 goals in those 10 games. Over an average of 2 a game. You know, any team that has to overcome that in a stretch of games like that has to do something very special, and they're just not quite clicking, are they, in the forward areas as well, which is usually where they can overcome. If a team goes 1 or 2-0 up, you still think, well, this City team can just have a blitz of 10 or 15 minutes, and it's not quite been there for them.
And yet you look at it, 9 goals conceded in their last 3 Champions League games. 2 tonight, 3 against Feyenoord, 4 against Sporting. They won 2 of their first 3 Champions League games, but it has stuttered really, really badly for Pep Guardiola since then. And Juve, who've only lost once to Manchester City in their previous 7 meetings, that was the first time they ever met in the UEFA Cup back in the mid-70s, keep their brilliant record against the Citizens going. They're now 10 unbeaten in all competitions, and that will give Juve hope as they try and reignite a charge of the Serie A table, because with all the draws they've been getting domestically, they've, you know, lost a bit of ground to Atalanta at the top of the pile.
I mean, there's some team defensively.
Yeah.
So impressive. You know, Locatelli, Gatti, Kalulu in particular, those 3, just the positioning and the amount of times they were there to block. And it's so important you do that against Manchester City, because you know they're going to try and create moments in the game, and you've got to defend incredibly well. And doing that then allows you the opportunity to be brave and go and try and counter-attack as they did. But if Juve can continue in that manner in terms of defensively, they're going to have a good season. It's just Vlahovic as the only forward. you just think they need a little bit more than that.
There's a word I hear a lot when it comes to teams, particularly in midfield, Dean Ashton, and that's dynamism. And whether Manchester City don't really have it at the moment. They've got all the culture and the ball playing. You've got De Bruyne, you've got Gundogan, Bernardo Silva with his trickery, but in terms of being dynamic, and that they've got this Rodri-shaped problem that they just cannot seem to fill.
No, they can't. I mean, if you're the opposition against Manchester City and you can win that ball in that midfield area, you've got Bernardo Silva, who isn't quick. You've got Kevin De Bruyne, who isn't quick anymore. Gundogan's not quick, and Lewis isn't that quick. You've got 4 midfield players in that area that if you've got, athletic players,
you can break on them.
You can break on them, and that's simply down to athleticism, of just pace, of running past them, and then you're on to Manchester City's defence, which can be out of place if Guardiola's allowed to get forward, if Walker finds himself in a right back position. You can upset that, and it is because of the athleticism or lack of it for Manchester City in that area.
Just finally, Dean, I would like you to pick our man of the match with Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Man of the match on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise has vans of all shapes and sizes, so if you've got a plan, we've got a van.
So who are you going to go for, Dean?
I thought Yildiz was good, but Manuel Locatelli was outstanding. Every single time the ball seemed to go in towards Juve's area, he was there. He either blocked it or was right next to his centre-backs to stop Erling Haaland getting it. He was absolutely terrific at spotting the danger, knowing when he's got to go in. And it just meant City struggled to create anything other than that Haaland chance. He was brilliant.
Manuel Locatelli is Dean Ashton's man of the match with our friends at Enterprise Rent-A-Car.